what you see right now is just leaders within organizations that want to go too fast, that are just dropping, tools in systems that are not feasible for AI solutions like HR, where there's now a lot of buzz around, where you see a lot of resistance from the employees because they are not being consulted.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to another episode of the BPM 360 podcast. My name's Casper, your host, and with me is, as always, my trusted friend and co-host, Russell. Russell, man, where are you at and how are you doing today?
I'm at home, sun's shining, everything's great, except for the internet connection, as you may have heard. Again.
We touched upon that earlier, right? So maybe Germany needs to step it up a little bit on that front.
Yeah, with all the regulations they have. No, but everything's great. Do have a bit of a strain currently on our garden. Actually, you say I told you how much I love the garden. But,
yes, I do.
Obviously, some neighbors are envious about the garden, so I have to.
Really?
Maybe have a session.
I've seen your garden.
Yeah, so digging down into the depths of the German laws and regulations around who can do what in which garden. Well,
blimey.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
But
for another time.
Yeah, that's for another time, because I don't think we brought a guest on for talking about gardens today. But let's bring in the guest, and it's my pleasure and honor to have Jan Scheele as a guest. Jan, welcome to the show.
Many thanks for inviting me.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. Jan, we go a couple of years back, and we've met when I just walked in to volunteer for TEDx, a local TEDx event that I ended up, let's say, helping you produce. That was so much fun, and we kept a little bit track since then. Could you tell our dear listeners and viewers, because we share the video as well, of course, afterwards, who you are and what do you do? What makes you tick in a day-to-day business?
I'll try to keep it very short and concise, Casper Russell.
I know.
Now, let me say, I always say I'm a nerd. I started coding websites when I was 13. I grew it into a digital agency. Then I started studying in Maastricht, the south of the Netherlands, where we also met. Studied finance, but I grew my companies. And how all these great things are happening, it's with a serendipity mindset. So a friend of mine in the same student house, he was like, hey, this TED Talk concept, shall we build our first TED in the south of the Netherlands? I was like, hey, let's go. So we were students, we built the first TED. And after that, I went from team to team, setting up TED events globally, 50 of them, not just ones in Maastricht, Eindhoven, Amsterdam, but also globally, United Nations headquarters, Iraq, Baghdad, Qatar, Panamanian jungle, lots of cool places. From that, I grew I'm sorry?
No, I would say that's interesting places.
I can literally write a book about all the crazy things we've witnessed in Iraq, with like the attacks and that kind of stuff. Panamanian jungle, 200 people, no cellular reception, Wi-Fi power, crazy stuff. Then I grew a speaker coaching agency out of that. So now today with Talk Like That, I help leaders all the time with, hey, how to communicate well, how to really make impact with your story, compile a story that lasts. That's going very well, from a Secretary of State to top students and everything in between. 2013, I got via the TED Talks in touch with deep tech, because we always offered a stage to innovative technologies like crypto. So I bought my first 40 Bitcoin, I remember, for $20 each.
I hope you still have them.
So then I went to the Panamanian jungle, where there was no Wi-Fi, no cellular reception. And I was like, hey, I'm a student. $1,100 now a piece. So I sold everything. I made a huge profit, decorated my apartment. Everybody was like, whoa, Jan. Yeah. So I never it learned me one thing: never go to places anymore where there's no Wi-Fi. But that's another story. Now I founded after that I founded a crypto skill up 18 million investment, which is sold. And I started also as a board member. We grew the so-called Blockchain Netherlands Foundation. So in the Netherlands, we are the hotspot for everything blockchain, crypto, digital asset related stuff.
Yeah.
So all the startups are member, all the big players are partner. We grow all the big meetups, trade missions, but also large scale events in the Amsterdam arena. So that's a lot of fun. I do that with 2 friends. And in my free time, I'm writing books. I'm digital leader at the World Economic Forum, which is a think tank in Switzerland. And I'm climbing mountains. Like in a month, I will go to Nepal again. Yeah. So lots of exciting things.
I've seen the Patagonia, so you're already half dressed up for the tour.
I am. This is deeper, right?
You're already preparing.
Yeah. I always was amazed, Jan.
And I was just listening to that story. So when does this man have free time to write books?
Yeah, that was my question.
How does that we have to work that one out?
Actually, I work out every day. I have a lot of friends. So in the end, that's one of the topics of today. It's like working efficient with AI. It's saying no to a lot of things. It's like, this sounds maybe silly, but I have this conversation a lot with people. And then I ask them like, so how does your day look like? Right? So how do you communicate? For me, I always have my phone switched off. I only do scheduled calls. I focus on one channel, which is email. And then after that, all the other communication channels. I eat my frog first. So I first do on the day, what I should do. And after that, I build up with other stuff. All these kind of easy things make sure that you actually do stuff. Instead of like morning, wake up, like answering all the emails, and you get clocked in this daily routine. So yeah, I think it are very easy peasy tricks, but in the end, it's just like going to the gym. It's with all the kind of things you need to act. Talk is easy, talk is cheap, execution is hard.
Yeah, it's just like Nike says, it just do it and be consistent. I think that's half the battle.
Exactly.
So it's really exciting to have you on, Jan, because I think there's 2 topics today that we would like to touch base with you on. One obviously is AI. The other one is your talk like TED part, and then more specifically, how can, let's say, presentation skills, speech training, those kind of things help people also in the BPM space to be more efficient or successful. But I would like to dive in first into the AI topic a little bit. It is a topic that it pops by in our podcast now and then. We typically highlight those episodes where it doesn't play a role, but this is one where we need to leverage the fact that you're here. And the first thing I would like to ask you is, when you look into all the conversations you have around AI and the knowledge that you have, where do you see AI going in terms of an enterprise application for mediums and large companies? What to expect if we're 5 years down the line, or maybe even 2 years? I mean, it goes fast.
Yeah, I would say 1 year max. Because
1 year, okay, 1 year.
The thing is that the developments are going so extremely fast. It's almost impossible to catch up. So if you look at, like how are the if you look at the developments,
no worries.
When it comes to I'll quickly get that's when things are go live. The torment, the package deliveries.
No worries at all.
I was literally this morning. I was preparing a keynote that I will give next week, literally about this topic. And in our perspective, there's like 2 developments going on right now within the corporate scene, in the organization scene. The first one is that you really see a clear distinguish between the top level organizations that see a huge potential in this and are acting as it should. So instead of having like a loose AI strategy, instead of just dropping AI tools at their staff members, no, redesign supply chains, AI first, redesigning AI or processes, AI first. So you really see, and there are not a lot of organizations, because I speak with a lot of organizations. There are only a few let's see, like, wow, in every aspect of our organization, let's see how we can make this AI first and grasp all the possibilities and opportunities there. But then there's, of course, a huge group lagging behind. And I think the second trend, what I see popping up right now, I mean, ChatGPT is there for, like, let's say 3.5 years. So yes, organizations have been working with AI for years, but now, this hype is going on. Bubble is being expanded. Now you see a majority of organizations working with it. But the challenge is, what I see is, like, the temperament, like the how actually organizations look at it, how the employees are looking at it. It totally changed. 3 years
Okay.
ago, 2 years ago, it was positive. People were enthusiastic. They were hyped. They were like, wow, this is finally setting me free from answering emails, going to calls, all the stuff. Like, as McKinsey wrote, we're still spending 65% of our time on tasks that can be automated. Yeah. All the tasks where we think, like, oh boy. Well, but now you see it changing. People get scared. People see, like, hey, wait, AI is actually doing what I should do with my job, So
Yeah.
I see the climate changing. I see within organizations a lot of rebellion. I see a lot of negativity. Lots of very, very tough discussions about bias, ethics, all that kind of stuff. And some organizations, and there's numerous examples in the Netherlands where you saw also governments going too fast, and now they're being, set back. Like, wait, first discuss all these very, very tough questions, and after that, look if we're actually going to use the technology. So these are for me the two most important things that I see happening right now within organizations.
And very interesting, because I think Europe has always been more the regulation first. So they're, especially when, coming up, I mean, if you compare America, they would say, okay, let's do it. And we'll deal with whatever happens around the compliance and issues. We'll deal with that along the way. And that's enabled them to move fast on certain technologies in the past, where in Germans, they call them the Bedenkenträger. If they are the ones that call the shots, then of course you come up and says, yes, but, and then you start talking down this rabbit hole of buts and issues and risks and compliance and regulations before you actually grasp the technology. And the issue here seriously is that the technology is, by the time you get a regulation that halfway fits the capabilities of ChatGPT 2 years ago, the game has changed radically, that you have to rethink your strategy along that, and you're losing traction. So I think from my this two speeds, or this different speeds of companies moving forward, I also see that a lot. I also agree that I'm astonished how little adoption is really happening in a structured manner. As you say, dropping tools all over. I use it as well. I use private data in a browser, and I just do the contract with that. It says, yeah, but why doesn't the company? They talk regulation, but they don't live like a platform. And then also getting the capabilities in the organization to grow in a structured manner, and then also deploying AI in a structured manner. And I think it's crazy. It's like, sometimes you do see a big problem, and you can either tackle it, or you can just put your head in the sand and say, maybe it'll just fly over. Yeah. and sometimes with AI, I think it's completely going too fast for some people to be able to comprehend and manage it properly. It's like in projects that sometimes get too big and messy, and you see people just hoping that it's going to go away, and it's not. Instead of, as you said, focusing, what do we need to do, and then tackling it one battle after another, they would rather just keep on doing it, ignore, procrastinate, I don't know what, blend it out. And AI, I see a lot of people where I see a behavior which is astonishingly shocking to a certain extent. Where I've said, you can't be serious. You can't be neglecting what is currently happening and acting as if this is a trend, like a fashion that's going to somehow not be fashionable anymore. I don't think that's going to happen. It's here to stay.
So there's three very interesting things in what you're saying.
Here we
I
go.
think the first one, when we're talking about regulation, yes, I think I'm proud. I'm very happy that I live in the EU, where we have this Brussels effect, right? Every time again, EU is being first with implementing a comprehensive framework for regulation. It was with GDPR, it was with MiCAR, with crypto, AI, DMA, DDA, whatever. And there's, of course, a lot of negativity about it's hindering innovation, that kind of stuff. For me, I've been working closely also on the crypto, the MiCAR regulation. And what you see here, maybe some companies, they were not entering the EU. But if you look at their business model, if you look at how they operate, the products, the services that they offer, we don't want them here. And if you look at the other side, regulation, clear regulation, is actually giving all the interesting participants within the ecosystem a lot of clarity, a level playing field. I see it from the crypto space, right? So we have the bigger investors. Next week, I'm organizing another big event around digital assets investments for pension funds, for institutional investors. They are on board. They say, there's regulation for us. That's important, to actually, invest large sums of capital. We see a lot of big organizations, all the traditional banks, ING, but also Visa, PayPal, they work on stable coins because the regulation is clear. So maybe in the beginning it hinders some innovation, but I think you should first, when it comes to regulation, look at the long game. And therefore, I think the regulation is good, because if you look at, for me, the regulation, if you really look at the regulation around AI, for example, most things that are prohibited, we don't want them here in the EU. I think we can discuss them.
Good point.
But if we discuss all of them, we say, we don't want this. We don't want these ICE things happening here in the EU. We don't want this very tough control of governments, when it comes to all their surveillance things that are popping up. So
So Jan, first of all, I'm jumping in there just to say thank you for these clear words. I'm stoked, because from somebody who's so on the innovation and, let's say, business development and make, for somebody like you to come in and say regulation is good, and I'm happy to be in the EU. I think that's a message. Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic. That really is fantastic.
We salute you for that.
I needed that as well. Because I could not agree more. And maybe if you embrace regulations and you work with them, it can work. It doesn't have to slow you down tremendously, but it can help you make some really bad things not happen. So absolutely, that statement, fantastic. That was the first point. You still have two, huh?
Yeah, I know. And coming back on this, so yesterday I had a very interesting discussion with the leader of the European Blockchain Sandbox Initiative. Yeah. So the EU, they're not screaming from a tower hey, this is a regulation, comply. No, they offer sandboxes. And now, yesterday, the third cohort finished, where everybody, so me as an entrepreneur, governments, whatever, are coming together to work on pilots, to check what is working out, what is not working out, what is itching when it comes to regulation. And the EU, they're like, wow, this is so fantastic that they are now doing all these sandboxes for all kinds of other technologies, etc. as well. So I see also these positive developments, where the governments are not just bombarding you with regulation, but also starting up these initiatives. Now, okay, other thing. You mentioned it's a hype. And for me, a hype, it causes this bubble. But in my perspective, bubbles are great. Because because of that, the technology gains a lot of momentum, gets a lot of attention, gets a lot of investment, so can grow very fast. Now, there's a lot of buzz around hey, this AI bubble, will it burst? I don't care. Because in the end, what will happen, only in my perspective, is the balance sheets from the MAGA 7, so let's say the bigger American tech firms, they will decrease a little, whatever. They have hundreds of billions of dollars. most important, the infrastructure has been built, and that will not be blown away. If you look at previous
I agree.
bubbles, right? Internet bubble, it burst, but then it brought PayPal, brought Google, it brought Amazon, Salesforce, all started at the internet bubble. Look at crypto bubble. Well, I mean, I've seen 5 bull and bear markets right now, but if you look at, there's over 1 billion crypto wallets. If you look at the adoption at some countries, some countries top 50% of transactions done by crypto. You see all the big banks, all the traditional financial banks using stable coins. Look at NFTs, another hype. Nobody's buying the expensive monkey pictures anymore, but you see a lot of companies. I have one for the record.
Of course you do.
But if you look, what's happening? It burst, but now the technology, the rails, are being used by an organization like Louis Vuitton Group. They tokenized already. They made 50 million NFTs of all their expensive clothes, Chanel, Louis Vuitton bags, so people can easily check if it's the real deal or fake. Look at last example. Look at metaverse. We're all gonna meet and shop in the metaverse, right? That was the deal.
Yeah.
I think it's a little early, but if you look now, every factory has a virtual twin. All the hospitals, like 70%, we found with the World Economic Forum, 70% of the metaverse use cases are in healthcare. Insane benefits. You see all the healthcare practitioners very happy. So, I mean, and AI might also be a big bubble, but in the end, it's laying the foundation for some very big next quantum leaps.
But what you're basically saying, and I think that's an interesting observation, is whenever there's a bubble and it bursts, what's left afterwards is the actual sane, healthy stuff that was developed as well during the bubble time. And everything that's on top, that's bogus, that's fluffy, that's kazugi, whatever it is, it's gone. And you have left the sound foundation, right? I mean, that's what you're basically saying.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, infrastructure.
If the AI bubble bursts, it's not that all the data centers will be blown away.
No,
they're still
all
the technology is still there. Yeah,
it's just going to be used in a more fundamentally good way. Yeah, and then your last point. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like there's been so many incredible reports about why do AI pilots fail. Right? There was this very influential study by MIT. What's that?
Yeah.
What do you
everybody's
think?
talking about it. I cite that as well. Yeah, I really. What's your take?
Well, it's very important. So my brother, he's a researcher. So from him, he did his PhD. I learned how to read research, how to always be critical at methods and data collection, that kind of stuff. And it is a little black-white study, right? You need to look a little bit deeper. Lots of efficiency gains, they cannot be measured. So I'm always looking from two sides, but most pilots fail. And I think it's very simple because what you see right now is just leaders within organizations that want to go too fast, that are just dropping, tools in systems that are not feasible for AI solutions like HR, where there's now a lot of buzz around, where you see a lot of resistance from the employees because they are not being consulted, they are not being trained. Usually in the Netherlands, when I'm giving keynotes, I'm like, hey, who is using AI? Okay. We here got this AI, it's called AI geletterdheid. So it's literally like a basic course in how to use AI properly.
Yeah. AI literacy.
And then I see, I'm sorry?
AI literacy.
Literacy, yeah. And then I ask like, how many people did this? And there's like maybe 1 or 2 hands. I'm like, okay, but you're obliged by law starting 1st of January this year to do this, nobody's working on this. So there's so many things.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Let me just
but
one small
thing.
No, just allow me real quick, Russell. So whenever I talk to customers about business process management, I'm going to make a parallel with AI here. The one thing I always tell them is, listen, you have a strategy. And that strategy of your company is translated into an operating model. And one of the components in your operating model always is your processes. And then for each process, you probably have operating procedures, and then you execute. And execution is the most important part in any company. The fact that that's not aligned is something I think why AI also fails, because they didn't think through from a strategy perspective into an operating model, where and how would AI actually help.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you talk about AI or automation or orchestration, they're all the same type of tech, even though AI is much more profound, I would say, and much more autonomous. I think they fail because of that missing alignment. How do you look at that, Jan? And then Russell, you can go.
100%. But this is one of the reasons why a lot of the pilots fail, according to all the bigger reports, MIT, McKinsey, KPMG. It's literally because they literally try organizations to drop some loose solutions in processes that don't fit. I think one of the best examples was in HR. United Nations published a report about this, that because organizations are using a lot of AI, or AI within human resources. In the Netherlands, I think a quarter of the organizations is doing this already. Because of this, there's a huge bias. So it is extremely negative actually for women. Women get much less chances, etc. Actually, to
wow.
yeah. So, and it was actually that bad that Amazon, in my perspective, one of the front runners, right? They invest hundreds of billions of dollars on AI. They quit. They literally said, we don't want AI anymore in our HR procedures, because they see it has such a profound negative effect on women.
That's
I
interesting.
think,
But there's one aspect that you're mentioning there, and which I think is so, and that's the term drop. So you said they drop it in, and I don't think AI, you can drop it like, let's say, conventional technology. So, typically you have like you program a program, you have you know the code, you have an input output, you do testing, primitively speaking. I don't think that works like with AI in the same manner, that you can say, this has these and these capabilities or functions. You just place it into the HR process to learn it. It's more like you get an employee, and then you dropping on the organization says, scan me the CVs. It says, okay, according to which criteria? Well, we need the best people. Okay, Then there's all some bullshit bingo by some men and some more subtle, honest CVs from women or whatever. And then he said, yeah, these are the best. He says, oh my God, what's happened here? So you've dropped the KI without really giving him the constraint and the context, which is much more complicated than with the normal, let's say, digital function, to actually work in a manner that you expected. So all the ethics around selecting somebody, everything that comes into the human element of somebody working in HR and not being biased, which is also hard to achieve. Yeah, is all has to be trained into, and you say, LLM has already been trained. Yes, but he needs that context in such a sound manner that the result is up to standards that we have. And that is a big challenge. And nobody takes that into consideration, that you actually have to train him, although he is already a trained model, to do the job according to compliance, culture, whatever you need. And they work both directions. I think if you've got people to understand that they trained it, that they also see the value of their own work in training KI to take over routine jobs in a manner and be the human in the loop. And this is most of the times completely neglected.
You know how they call this? The doorman fallacy. And why is this? Because there's some fascinating science around this and some case studies where there was a big hotel and they were like, hey, why do we still have a doorman? Right? We can also have like automatic doors. It saves a lot of money. So they did. But the doorman is the guy that has the eye, that knows what's happening, that knows how to, like arrange stuff, and like that sees, just in a good restaurant, a barman sees, where should I take action and that kind of stuff. And these actions, they cannot be automated. It's called the doorman fallacy.
Yeah.
And you see, I think there was a very, so let me be clear. I'm not here to sell any whatever AI.
No.
I don't think it's a silver bullet. And therefore, I think it's always good to stay critical. I think another great case, what I heard back from one of my colleagues from the forum, was translation. So let's say the easy translations, amazing. Like actually the first Gen AI was Google Translate. Nobody knows it's Gen AI,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
mean, it was,
Yeah.
people were using that already quite some time. I think for most of the translations, it's great. But if you look at some translations between, let's say, the more tougher languages like Arabic and Chinese, etc., it is not that easy. You need to listen to the sound. You need to listen to so many other things, put things in context to give you the right translations. So here you see actually organizations, taking a step back, saying like, okay, well, we try to automate, replace this with AI, but it's not possible because we need this depth in a translation. We need all these
Yeah. And just
details.
think about books, how they produce a picture in your, the way they're written, and certain languages have a very like flowery set of words that means something even more than you can actually just read out of it in translation. So I think good translators of books, they really are authors themselves in knowing how to take this feeling that the words are producing and putting it into a different language. And the more, say, Arabic, that must be crazy. I mean, even translating a book, that's why maybe the Quran was never translated, because it says you would always disrupt the actual meaning of what was there. So originally, that is most probably not too stupid, really, to say that's why that should not be translated, because it definitely will disrupt the original word.
Let me give you a very simple example. We use AI in our podcast editing to create the show notes, at least a proposal for the show notes and the title of the episode. So I feed it the transcript, plain and simple. What has literally been said by whom? And then it came up with a title and a show notes that had nothing to do with what we said. So I asked the Claude one in this case, I said, did you even read the transcript? We didn't talk about this. And then it said, oh, sorry. And it came back with a perfect show note and a perfect title. It's like, why didn't you do that the first time around? It's like, you really need to question them from time to time.
It's also the data input, right? So
Of course.
I've been testing out this a lot. And for me, I had a conversation where I was like, hey, I recorded it with the dictaphone app on my iPhone, then make it to text, make minutes. Horrible. But now I'm using this, it's called a plot. So it's literally listening to your meetings. And I've never had such amazing minutes with action lists and that kind of stuff. The quality is so good because the thing is, like, people neglect, but you can hear so many things from the voice, right? Urgency, illness, all that kind of stuff.
Wow,
So if people repeat things all the time, the minutes maker thinks like, hey, maybe I should, add some more emphasis or important points. And for me, most important is that I can actually be in the conversation. So instead of like making minutes, I can participate in and have my full focus on what matters, which is the conversation. So that's for me, most important thing. Circling back, I think another example where it went terribly wrong. Usually when I speak about AI in processes, I'm very excited about Google. They launched over 200 AI programs, AI models. The most interesting things, and their flagship one, which has like the biggest like computer resources and that kind of stuff behind them, they make it very easy to spot breast cancer. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He's a doctor here in the Dutch hospital. And the Netherlands, I mean, healthcare is insane. It's like extremely cheap, right? We pay 100 euros a month. It's always accessible, whatever. But for him, his waiting list is like a year. If you go to the overview of all the hospitals and the doctors, you see you easily have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4 months to see a doctor, like a specialized doctor, not a regular.
Of course. We get that.
For diseases like cancer, this is, of course, it's not nice.
That's too long
for the patients. So if you look at this process of detecting breast cancer in a few minutes with a 98% accuracy. Holy M, that's just incredible. I worked with two executive boards of hospitals last year, and they also told me, like, Jan, every department now, we oblige them to check how can we use AI to make this healthcare more efficient. Now, it all sounds amazing, right? But if you look
True.
back, though, where was a little bit too much pressure from the management on the staff members? It was at the UK NHS, National Health Services. Same there. They were like, hey, let's have AI on every scan, like give them advice and that kind of stuff. The doctors and the other health practitioners were so annoyed with that they were not consultants. They were not having any, possibility to actually talk, to give input and that kind of stuff. That they said, screw you. We keep on manually assessing this, and we're not going to use the tool. Boom.
Oh, wow.
There goes your efficiency.
So yeah, absolutely.
An example of where too much pressure, no consulting.
Yeah,
people refuse to use it.
Yeah, but I was triggered a little bit by your cancer example here, Jan, because I know that my son did a sort of a research to graduate from high school in the Netherlands, from gymnasium. And he did research into how can we use quantum mechanics or quantum physics to increase the output from a PET scan image, because they're typically rather blocky, as we all know. And he managed to actually use an ML, so machine learning, and together with AI, to actually increase the pixel depth of PET scans using the quantum physics formulas in the, it's called Nifty PET software that they use in hospitals. And he's now studying physics in the university in Eindhoven, and he's going to take that up as his next research project. And I think that goes in the same direction as the example that you did, only he did it, of course, on a more amateuristic level now, but it can go so incredibly far and fast with AI nowadays. It's incredible.
And that's what you mentioned. I think for me, the big next step within a deep tech scene is the convergence, is the synergy between those technologies. You see some negativity, right? So quantum could have an extremely bad impact on cryptography, so on cybersecurity, on crypto, all that kind of stuff. But look at where AI has a profound impact on speeding up the developments of humanoids, right? On robots. Insane. On world models, on BCI, on brain computing images, there's so many incredible cases. On drug discovery and development. There's now hundreds of medicines being developed with AI that are now already, in its testing phase. There's so many incredible examples where it is. You mentioned quantum and AI. Look at Corona, the Corona vaccine, right? So usually it takes around 12 years to develop a vaccine, a medicine. Now, the combination of AI and quantum being used, it only took 4 months to develop the Corona vaccine. Well, and here we are. I mean, there's a lot of
I get
I mean, there's a lot of negativity around AI, and I think we should also address this, but also always look at these profound impact cases.
But thinking about that, actually, also one aspect around AI is that I think Notebook LM. I love that example where you just say, give me a podcast on whatever topic, and you listen to it and said, wow, because now coming to your TED Talks and the talk. Actually, by the way, I did visit a TED Talk in a very interesting city, Sittard.
Yeah, and that was
Kasper,
the one I organized with Kasper.
Remember, you invited me. You organized it.
I did.
Or you helped organize it, and you invited me, and I popped over. So actually,
you did.
Nice.
So,
that's freaking hell. So Jan was the main producer of that. Of that.
We did it together.
That was the second year, I think, we did it, Brussels. So that was the second. Did you go to a bank building, or did you go to a former cinema?
It was like it was a fantastic building, but it was a bank.
That was the first year, actually. Then, Oh man, that's where I met Jan and the rest of the crew. And we had such a good time there.
So that's how these big loops close. After 10 years.
The world's a small place, Russell. But absolutely. Go on with your question.
So So talking about so here, you're talking about AI taking over jobs. You know, I rang up for my to have my bike maintained at a bike shop, yeah, and I had an AI talking to me, and I was put down the phone, and I went there, I said, where did you get that software from? That is so good. It was so professional. And I just wanted to have some spokes changed on a carbon wheel that had broke. So she understood that I wouldn't need a long time, that they may be able to repair it on site. And then she scheduled, I think so it was not just a chit chat and then record or press 1 or 2. It was a nice discussion with somebody who took up the phone after 2 seconds. So, and the skills of her listening and understanding from my perspective in this context, and then answering me, I was just kind of like, wow. Now, then you go to Notebook LM and you have this we do podcasts here, got a bit of practice, and then you listen to them, you're going, ah, I have to step up my game. I have to step up my game so I don't get replaced by Notebook LM. But on the other hand, on certain jobs, is it something where you say, yes, but take it as a challenge or take it as a platform to learn? And how far does this, like human in the loop and us being able to communicate and speak, the relevance is this something that is becoming less relevant because on a lot of parts it could be replaced by AI? Or is there some like reasoning to say actually it becomes more relevant? Because also like with prompting, a lot of people can't prompt because they can't write full sentences. Well, you know, they know Google search keywords, but actually to give a bit of a broader context of what you want out of it, you need to write good long sentences. And maybe with speech, it's similarly. What's your take on the development on the necessity to communicate as a human being, real, versus in the times of AI and the whole crazy world developing?
Now, last week, Zoom, the video call platform, they finally launched their virtual avatar. So you can literally send a virtual avatar of yourself to the meeting. And he or she, you can decorate it nice and that kind of stuff, will take place, answer, make minutes, all that kind of stuff. I think there will be a clear split. And this will be a clear split in everything. In day-to-day work, homework, cleaning, but also office work, etc., where all the stuff we just don't want to do, all the stupid work, all the things like making minutes, answering emails, scheduling meetings, whatever, it will be replaced by AI because it's already possible because I do it myself. It's I'm so happy with that, like all that stupid work, oh, and then going to meetings and that kind of stuff. The other side, in my perspective, is more the high quality stuff, high quality keynotes, high quality conversations, etc. Here, we are humans. We want to bond. We want to connect. I remember during Corona, metaverse came up and everybody's like, whoa, from now on, we will only meet in the metaverse, in virtual meetings. We will go to virtual festivals. Nothing happened. Everybody wants to meet physically. So that's, if you look at all the developments, there's a lot of hype. It will replace everything. But then I'm like, no, I mean, AI there's like 40 AIs that can literally write a book for me with one prompt. I don't want this. I use AI for my research. I write it myself. There's 40, 50, maybe 100 AIs that can literally book an entire trip for me. I don't care. I want to book my own trip because for me, that's fun. So there's so many of these elements where like, sure, maybe it's possible because, and that's also the thing. There's so many of the prophets that say like, there's hundreds of millions of jobs being replaced and that kind of stuff. But if you look here, yes, I mean, first of all, yes, some groups, some professionals, people working in call centers, at customer service, translators, text writers, etc. Yes, I think they will be replaced. They are already being replaced, right? Wall Street Journal, all the research, it shows this is happening right now. But the second thing is that all these developments, they never go that fast because as we discussed in the beginning, there will be a lot of resistance. There's a lot of talk about, how will it work out legally wise? what happens if an agent, like schedules the wrong meeting, books the wrong product? I mean, there's only one insurance policy given out for an agents until now. So there's so many things that we still need to discuss. So yes, in the long run, it will certainly replace jobs, but maybe actually replace tasks within jobs, not full jobs. Maybe some jobs, but
that's a good point. Tasks, and I also believe that, but this is also a trend, from Corona coming now, seeing how events are being visited. I just also had an event locally in Cologne, and I had the impression people want to meet people. And so next to having team meetings where we see each other, I don't want to have an avatar, even if it was still me speaking. I would say that's something where also with the metaverse, and VR stuff, I think, fantastic possibilities to use it. But I guess it becomes a niche product where it can really make a lot of sense. Where this, the three-dimensional spheres in your hands in combination with your eye can play maybe a specific role. But actually events, people coming together and talking real is something where I think people will long for, always have done. But it's maybe even going to the pub. Yeah. I think that's something that'll come back. People need interaction, and we need to learn it again as well to communicate, to flirt, more than just straight talk. Because sometimes with the Teams meetings as well, you have this half an hour start end, don't have to listen because the meeting minutes is writing everything. So you're doom scrolling while you're in the Teams meeting. So there's a lot of bad cultural habits we have there. And ultimately it comes down to when you do go to an event and see people and somebody's talking and addressing you and you go into a dialogue, you see how you're dressed, you see your facial habits and everything. It's just something that makes you live as well, makes us human. And I think that's something we will see, that there will be a big longing, a big demand for this, even more than in the past.
But I mean, here it's quite clear in my perspective. We see so many of these solutions that are looking for a problem that doesn't exist. And if we think clearly, no, but I mean, that's the thing. I mean, why would you send my virtual avatar to a Zoom call? Because I don't think I should belong there. Why would you go to the meeting in the first instance? I mean, I think for me, the most beautiful example comes from one of the most respected software companies in the Netherlands, Avos. They make big scale CRM software and that kind of stuff. What they did, they were the first company to publicly announce that they would have a 4-day work week. So staff members, they would get I think the Wednesday or the Friday free, and they would be paid the same salary. Now, the interesting thing is that a lot of buzz was around also from the CEO, of course, but because we have AI, people can work smarter, more efficient, so we can save one day. And for them, it's better to chill down one more day, so they are more happy on the 4 days they work. What happens is quite simple. I spoke to some of them because I did a project with them, is that the employees, they started to think okay, wait, I have 1 day less for work. So now I maybe should actually think, do I belong in this meeting? Do I actually need to participate in this meeting? So the amount of meetings, it decreased with 30% because people, the Amazon way, were thinking and the Tesla way, right? They were thinking why am I in this meeting? Right? So usually for me, meetings are quite clear. I'm happy to join a meeting if it has a clear purpose, a clear structure, agenda with time boxes, and a reason why if participants should be there. And that's why I never get invited to a lot of meetings. But it saves me a lot of time.
I'm a consultant. So is it billable? Okay, sit there.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, here you are, Jan, in a podcast recording where we had a vague idea of an agenda. We have a time cap, which we're approaching, by the way. Other than that, we just want to have fun. And that we achieved certainly that. And I always hate to be the timekeeper, but we need to start thinking about wrapping this up today. But I feel that we could talk for a couple more hours actually on this topic. So let me, Russell, I'll allow you a final question because you always have a final question. And Jan, if you have a final remark after that, be my guest. But Russell, what are you dying to want to know from Jan before we need to say goodbye to him?
Well, I think really looking at these times and the broad spectrum of things that you're looking into. So let's take a question for, let's say, younger employees or people entering the job market, but all the insecurity around, oh, what job do I have to learn? Where do I go? Where's this world coming to? What is your advice, positive advice on how to move forward and what to focus on in these times of I think disruptive elements coming from all sides. But what's your take on that? What should they focus on?
Now, the interesting thing, what I read a lot about, is that instead of focusing solely on one profession, is to act more as an orchestrator. I see more and more organizations, big legal firms, big firms that need developers,
Hmm.
marketing agencies, etc., that hire people that can literally orchestrate, for example, agents or AIs. So I work with some respected legal companies that instead of 5 only hire 1 junior that is an orchestrator of all the AI tools. The same with
Oh,
development
okay. Yeah.
company. They have like a junior. The same with marketing agency. So it's in my perspective, be the orchestrator. I think that's the most
Hmm.
important thing. The second thing is, like I have always a very stoic view on these kind of elements. Like, hey, do I have a grip? Do I have any impact on all these developments that are currently taking place? No. So therefore, I'm also not, spending any energy on that. There's a lot of developments going on around AI, a lot of buzz, a lot of negativity, a lot of big, bold statements from prophets. I neglect them. I focus on how it possibly could impact my work, my life, and I'll just see what happens in the foreseen future, right? When I come also back to
Yeah.
all the big, bold statements of Bill Gates. Well, according to Bill Gates, we would now literally have a quarter of our meetings in the metaverse. It didn't happen. So that's, with a lot of these developments, I closely watch them every day. I act on that. I think the most important skill for the upcoming years is being our Darwinistic view, to be able to constantly adapt every day again
Change. Yeah.
towards the industry you're working and the job that you're working at. Yeah.
There we go. So in our podcast on, and this is going to be nice. In our podcast on the newest high tech stuff that we have around there, we go back to Darwin. It is absolutely brilliant. Jan, I would like to take the opportunity to really sincerely thank you for being on the
But
show
may
today.
I have one more
Yeah, you
suggestion?
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more.
Sorry, go ahead.
Now, we are, of course, talking about business process management. And for me,
Yes.
I did like the guy before. Now I'm like, pity he went so rogue. Elon Musk. And what I learned from Elon Musk are the mental models, like the models that actually make actually help you thinking. For me, one of my favorite books over the last years was Super Thinking, where they literally discussed like 200 mental models. When we look at business product process management, right? Like all the how you
Hmm.
can actually work on this. I think what Elon Musk is doing with every company he starts in every like product, etc. He's doing first principle thinking. So literally start zero based thinking. Start from scratch, and then all the ingredients, all the elements. Like start from the base level. Also, coming back to the topic of AI, I think that would be very worthwhile. Instead of like having like solutions and think where you can plug them into processes, no, zero-based thinking. Look at mental models like as first principle thinking, or ask GPT, hey, what would you advise? And then from scratch, look at the possibilities, how it can actually complement your organization and your workflows. So
And
mental
that
models.
fits a bit with the orchestration as well, because to orchestrate, you need that mental model and you need the
Yeah.
meta model of how things work and
Yeah.
interact. And on that level of abstraction, you need to be able to think. And I think
Yeah.
that's where also when training or learning chess at the beginning of anything like that, it's getting this abstract model in mind and working on
But
these capabilities.
But then
That's
the
good.
interesting
Fits.
thing then is that if you want to provide guardrails to AI in an enterprise, in a company, your collective repository of process information is basically your guardrails, because you're telling the AI, this is where you need to stay within. This is our legal and compliance framework. This is the way that we're doing things. And then, of course, you can apply the first principle thinking on how can we restructure and reinvent ourselves. But if you want to, let's say, deploy AI on an enterprise scale, you need to tell the AI, do not step outside of these boundaries, period. And that, I think, comes a lot from your process intelligence side. Brilliant. Thanks for that addition, Jan and Russell.
Jan, that's it. Just at the last minute, we managed to actually get back to business process management. People will believe, listening, said, so what has this got to do with BPM? It's really interesting, fantastic. But, and I said, but Jan, you saved our ass at the end.
Never mentioned
brilliant. No. We'll keep that last one in anyway. So Jan, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for being on our show today. Don't run off immediately, please, because we need to wait until your feed uploads. I always need to say that to our guests. But to our listeners, thanks for sticking with us for the last, let's say, almost an hour. And we hope to see you again in the next episode. Thank you very much. And
enjoy the day.
Jan, thank you very much. That's fantastic.
All right.